A reading from a testimony about Christian faith. My name is Marvin McKim. I was born in Lamar, Colorado during the year 1940. After graduating from high school in 1958, I enlisted and served in the United States Navy. I was to marry in the year 1964. In 1969, I became a Metropolitan Life Insurance Consultant Manager in Wheat Ridge, Colorado. I remember the years 1974 and 1975 as being the most empty and the loneliest years in my life. In 1976, I made a decision that would change my entire life, and this change continues to this day. Looking back now, I realize that I had a hardened heart and that I was selfish, distant, and self-centered in all my ways. In my brokenness, I would come into an awareness of what was really important in my life. I had lived a life, whereas in my appearance, I did appear like a good person. But in reality, I did not like this person whom I had become. At 36 years of age, I wanted to change my life. I turned to God to help me. I remembered back to a time when I was only 16 years of age. I remembered a particular evening being with my friend Gary. Gary shared the gospel of Jesus Christ with me, and I had accepted the invitation. I repeated the sinner's prayer as Gary had instructed. Now, in 1976, my desire was to turn back to the hope that was revealed to me 20 years before in 1956. I believe that ever since that evening 20 years before, God had always been in the background of my life, but I had neglected Him and had chosen to follow my own direction in life. My hope now was that it was not too late for me to change. I confessed my sins, and with a repentant heart, I asked God for His help for me to change my life. I believed God had a plan for me, but I needed to be willing to follow and seek Him. This was to become the priority in my life. Changing for me was a slow process, as my heart was convicted of many transgressions, and shame saddened me of who I had been. My hope was, and continues to be, that I will continue to change and live according to whatever direction God leads me into. It was not long after that I started to be blessed in many ways. A friend had become the sales manager at Pioneer Porsche Audi, located in one of Denver's suburbs. Pioneer had a position open for a new car salesman, and I applied. I was rewarded the vacant sales position. 3 years after being hired by Pioneer, I was named Salesman of the Year. During that same year, Pioneer Porsche Audi was named as being the largest volume dealer in the United States for Audi automobiles. I now held the title of being the #1 Audi salesman in America. In only one afternoon, everything in my life changed. Everything in life seemed satisfactory as I was content at home and felt satisfied at work. One afternoon, I was in my office at Pioneer, and there came upon me a need to return and live again in Lamar, Colorado. In my spirit, I believed and knew God wanted me to return to Lamar, Colorado. I had no idea what I would do in Lamar, as opportunities were limited there because of its population and location. I had a peace as I believed God had a purpose for me in life. I resigned from my position with Pioneer and placed my home up for sale. Furthermore, I was to liquidate all my other assets. By faith, I moved to Lamar. I believed God was in complete control of everything. It was only after I had already moved to Lamar did I find out my purpose for being there. This was during a time in the 1970s and 1980s when roller skating was popular throughout America. That popularity was viewed on television and in movies, and now Southeast Colorado was again ready to have a roller skating rink. I purchased vacant land, and over the following year and a half, I followed God's directions and God's handiworks in everything that I did. I was close to being the perfect person for God to return roller skating back to Lamar. I was experienced in marketing, business, roller skating, and I understood the community. Most importantly, I was willing to do what God had placed into my heart. The advantages being the owner and the operator of the new roller rink was that 25 years prior, while I was a teenager, I had been the second best roller skater in Lamar. A friend named Buddy held the title of being the best roller skater in Lamar. I was informed by others that Lamar had been without a roller skating rink for many years. I was about to own and manage the only roller skating rink between Pueblo, Colorado, and Garden City, Kansas. Both of the other roller skating rinks were over 90 miles away, and both were in opposite directions. I was to use my marketing ideas for my many years of being in the insurance business. I was aware that my future roller skaters were to be primarily children between the ages of 5 and 16 years of age. I also realized and believed that being in a fun and safe atmosphere with their friends was far more important than actually the roller skating in itself. The two most important days of the year for any child were Christmas and their birthday. From the very first day when I opened the roller skating rink, I asked everyone, children and adults alike, to register into what I had titled as a birthday book. I would later announce the name of each birthday child or adult over the radio and invite them to the skating rink. In order to do this, I would go out to Lamar's only radio station, KLMR, and generate a weekly commercial by announcing over the radio those names who were celebrating birthdays that particular week. KLMR's radio audience was heard over a 100-mile radius throughout southeast Colorado, southwest Kansas, and the Oklahoma Panhandle. I also would mail each of them a birthday card, and this included the adults as well as the children. It became a known fact that there were many surprised parents who appreciated my attention and my recognition of their birthdays. Additionally, I would then place a weekly article in the Lamar Daily News titled Birthdays of the Week. Again, I would invite them to the skating rink to celebrate their birthday. I would take a photo of each child alongside their friends as they celebrated their birthdays. I would attach each of these photos to the walls in the snack area for everyone to share and to talk about. The entire south wall of the snack area was filled with photographs of blissful children attending birthday parties at the roller skating rink. Thousands came from the many towns, the farms, and the ranches throughout southeast Colorado to see the new Lamar roller skating rink, while at the same time to experience the excitement and joy of having a birthday party for their child and their child's friends at the skating rink. I continue to be blessed over and over being able to provide such a place as this. I was to hold a skate-a-thon to raise money for the Jerry Lewis Muscular Dystrophy Association, and my roller skaters raised more money in the rink that very first year than the entire city of Lamar had ever raised in any of their previous years. I look back now, remembering the many times that I received confirmation from others for my purpose for being in Lamar. I was told by a pastor in a Lamar church that his congregation had been praying for a person such as me to bring a place like this to Lamar to take their children off the streets and place them into something that provided a Christian atmosphere of recreation. Every song that was played in the rink I would listen to beforehand. I wanted to have a roller skating rink with Christian standards, and this included the songs and music. Those years that I spent in Lamar were to become the most fulfilling and rewarding years in my entire life. Maybe I was copied by others, I don't know. I do know other rinks became aware of my marketing ideas. Because of our location in southeast Colorado, with the scattered farms, ranches, and towns, I had to depend on a child, their families, and their friends to travel from as far as 50 miles away to roller skate repeatedly. Surely, God had blessed the rink, as the Lamar roller skating rink was to become one of the best marketed and best operated roller skating rinks in the nation. Hopefully, the Lamar roller skating rink had provided a righteous place of growth for a period of time in the life of a precious child. Over the years, God has continued to bless me. During the late 1990s, and while living in Denver, Colorado, I attended a Wednesday evening Bible study. At times, someone would share a testimony of how in their own life God had reached down and changed their lives. And they were aware of God's presence. I was a believer in the power behind a Christian to share a personal testimony. It would fortify others in their own faith. At the same time, it would proclaim an example of the truth of the gospel to a non-Christian who might be present. One Wednesday evening, I openly shared with the others about what had happened to me while I was working at Pioneer Partiality. I told everyone about that day at Pioneer when suddenly in my spirit there was a need to move back to Lamar, as this was the town of my birth. Previously, I had never wanted to return to Lamar. By faith alone, I had chosen to have my life changed because I knew God was behind that change. At the time, I did not know what the future would hold for me, but I was at peace about my decision to sell everything and move to Lamar, not knowing what the future would hold. Myself, I had only wanted to be in God's will. Returning to Lamar had been a time in my life when God blessed me greatly, and I will always remember and be grateful. When I finished sharing this testimony that Wednesday evening, those that were present told me that this was a testimony that I should share with others. Over the following days, I scripted out the complete testimony, edited it, and tried to make it read as professional as I could. At that time, I had a subscription to the most read Christian business magazine in the world, and they had over 500,000 other subscribers worldwide. They published my testimony article exactly as I had written. They also included the colored pictures I had sent them. My written Christian testimony had been read around the world, and I did feel blessed. Since that time in 1998, I have been interviewed 3 times on Denver Christian television. My second interview was to share about my book, The Inheritance of God's Blessing. My third and my last interview was to share about my ministry, Christian Testimony Outreach. But my very first interview and my most important interview was being able to share in what I believe to be was my most important life experience. What began in 1956, my repentance in 1976, and then God's blessing of the Lamar roller skating rink. This blessing occurred because I had learned to be faithful and not to follow the world.